by popular demand, Lena rants to herself in a wood. Except today we're not going to have a rant. We're going to have a little ideas meeting. Goes without saying that the news is awful right now. I mean, the news is by design awful, but particularly at the moment, either you're probably reading something absolutely catastrophic and dystopian about your country or about somebody else's. And just for the record, distress is the correct emotion. I don't think you should feel bad for feeling that way. You're just responding like a human being. Today, however, I am going to do what I would do with you if we were in person, and I'm going to take you on a walk and tell you about some mad ideas I've had. Because for some reason, no matter what else is going on or how much mud I'm trawling through, there is a lot of mud down here, oh my goodness, somehow my brain keeps coming up with projects for me to do. Projects that I have no business doing, projects that I don't have time or resources or money to do, but here they are. So I'm going to give you some of them just to distract you, entertain you, or even make you inspired to commit a crime. The crime being stealing my ideas and doing them yourself. The first one is, I think it would be very advantageous if buses not only had the number of the bus on the front and where they were going, but also like a score or like a temperature gauge of how late they have been in the last year, like how many times they have been on time versus how many times they have been late. And then you can see from a distance whether that is a reliable bus that you might want to consider getting in the future. And maybe there could also be like little abacuses on bus stops where people walk past and they put like a bead on for every time they would have got a bus if they could have depended on it, because they're real people with real lives and they need to be on time for things. Then there would be enough stats for local governments to really like argue the fact that we needed them, and maybe the reason people aren't using them isn't because they don't need them or they genuinely prefer a car. It's just that sometimes watching buses go by in Britain is kind of like cloud spotting. They are floating around, you can see them, but there's no predictable pattern and you'd never use it to get to work. A more positive one, I bloody love a walking tour, and I generally do them as a tourist when I am on holiday. And in my defense, that's kind of because, well, that's what they're designed for. Like, that's who they're advertised for, that's who they're written for, that's how like all the landmarks are organised around people who are tourists in the area and don't know where things are and would like to know some basic history. However, what if we had walking tours for people who actually lived in the towns, like people who might vaguely know their way around but want to know more about like the nitty-gritty history of where they live, but also like the current stuff that's going on in the town, and like where the library is and where the independent bookshops are, and like where and which pubs run social nights and places to meet people, especially for like new people moving to the area as well. That would be really cool. And then what if attached to that there was like a monthly pub quiz, but it was only about like local issues and things that were happening and local history, and like the point was to be in a team with people that you hadn't already met, and it was like a neighbours pub quiz. I think that would be so cool, and I totally do not have time to do that. Don't get attached to that idea, Lena. Another one that I had was, you know that game Yellow Car? If you have never played Yellow Car. So essentially, yellow cars are quite rare. So whether you are driving in a car or just walking around a pedestrian, the rules are, if you see a yellow car, you are allowed to punch whoever you are near and shout "yellow car" before they do. Don't do it to strangers. Comes out with varying results, but if you're with people, like, that's just a tradition. That's what you do. You shout "yellow car" and punch people. So I was thinking, what if I bought a yellow car and I had a dash cam on it, and the dash cam was like live streaming so anybody could watch it, and then there'd be this really entertaining, cathartic, small, micro, harmless, violent thing where you could just watch this car drive through neighbourhoods and everybody go up to their friends and go "yellow car," but it would be like constant, kind of like, I don't know the POV of a beautiful dog owner, but I imagine they get stopped all the time and it's just like this constant barrage of people going, "What's their name? I love them." I mean, that would be a good live stream too. But anyway, and maybe you could do it for charity or something. Maybe people could like tip. It could be on Twitch. But like, I just think like a yellow car live stream would be epic. I don't have a driving license, so I feel like this one isn't an idea for me, but please enjoy. I want to see the petty violence. Okay, here's another one. Taylor Swift, climate change. Seem a little bit at odds. Made a whole video talking about that. However, what if there was like a no Swifties on a dead planet club night, like around the world, because I feel like Taylor Swift does not respond very well to criticism and negativity, but she does respond really well to Swifties asking things of her, like politely and nicely, and having ideas. Like, they came up with the friendship bracelet thing, and now it's like a whole part of her brand, and she's really appreciative of it. So what if you had a no Swifties on a dead planet night or something like that? And everybody, another problem is the fast fashion that was created by the Eras tour that went on for 2 years, and everybody bought specially made or bought outfits for it that they're probably never going to wear again. So everybody can come to these club nights and wear their Eras tour outfits and have like a place to keep joy and like re-wearing them and stuff. And everyone who couldn't afford to go to the Eras tour, didn't get a ticket, gets to come. And it's kind of like the Eras tour, but you're raising money to help stop the destruction of the planet. And also, like, maybe there's like a little like fabric letter or something at the end that everybody can sign, being like, Taylor, could you please help us because we're very worried about the floor. The floor is made of lava, please help. And like, I think even if she doesn't respond, I feel like being like, just because you're not going to address this issue, leader of our cult, I am a Swiftie by the way, that doesn't mean that the community can't address it without you. Like, this will happen anyway, so please join in. I'm not one for placating billionaires, but if I was gonna pick a billionaire that might actually help, I would pick Taylor Swift. Skepticisms and private plane and all. Okay, next one, fast fashion. I get the protests outside of the shops. I do. I get them in my soul. However, they don't really seem to be making an impact with people who actually shop there. And if we assume that people are too emotionally frozen up or apathetic or just can't deal with it right now to hear about all of the reasons, like the altruistic reasons they might want to stop buying fast fashion, instead, I think protesters should just bring rails of fast fashion clothes that have been used for a few years and invite customers to look at the state of them, like how poorly they're wearing, or how embarrassingly dated they are, or how stretched and unraveled and just shit they look after a very short amount of time. Because I believe that a lot of like climate action is inherently selfish, and like that's okay because you're trying to save your own planet, save yourself, save everyone else, PS, along the way. But I do think that the point of a lot of climate messaging isn't just like, do you want to do a nice thing for other people and you're a bad person if you don't? It's just like, do you want to do like the most basic survival technique, which is avoid all these things that are literally ruining the floor that you stand on every day. So anyway, I think that would be a fun idea, and then people can try them on and then score them out of 10, and instead of it being like, you're so bad for coming in here, just being like, don't go in there, stay out here, have a drink, have a party, take some of these second-hand items instead of going in there, and like chat to us about what you genuinely think of the quality of the items. Make the joke on the fast fashion brands, not on the customers. And then the final idea, this has nothing to do with the climate, you might be relieved to hear. Okay, I am a creative, but I struggle sometimes to get stuff done. And sometimes I feel like the only way I get stuff done is if somebody I respect, or somebody who's a professional or an adult, sets me a deadline. And I was like, well, what if we extrapolated that and merged it with another phenomenon that is really, really prominent, which is like dom culture, and like people paying other people to like make them lick floors or like dominate them or punish them in some way. And I'm like, what if there was like a creative dom, like freelancer role, where you just paid somebody to tell you were a piece of shit if you didn't finish your book or finish your painting or finish your piece of art? I think some people would be into that. And I think whether they're turning up to your house wearing leather boots and bringing a whip, or they're just sending you shitty little texts like, you better write that chapter, you piece of crap, I think it would maybe produce some really great art. And while I think things like writing classes and writing retreats and beautiful notebooks and nice pens and beautiful cafes are really helpful, I wonder if this could also be an additional approach for some people, like a writing dom or a creative dom. I think it could be cool. I think it could fly on OnlyFans. Anyway, I didn't goddamn bring you here to tell you all my ideas so you could steal them, which you're very, very welcome to do. I brought you here to answer a question that I have been asked a lot while I've been touring my book. I've been on to quite a few different places, and it's a question that has come up in every single Q&A. And the question goes something along the lines of this: are we fucked? And what do we even do about the mess of the world right now? So the answer to the latter question, I think, is simply pick a problem. Doesn't have to be something globally life-changing. It can be something like just simply building a little bit of community where you live and learning about the place that you live. Doesn't have to be a project where you bring all the answers. You can just bring people together in the room who might know the answers, or have space for people to talk about the answers. But the fact that a lot of the time we don't even have spaces to try and talk and resolve these things and mull them over together is an issue. So one of the aims of my channel is to create an online space where we can actually even just talk about the climate or talk about fast fashion and not feel judged, but try and work it out together, because I think one of the problems is we don't even know how to have a conversation about it. And then the question as to whether we are fucked is obviously a very big question, and I've got no business answering it, but and yet I did. I answered it at the end of one of the chapters in Half-Assed Human, so I thought I'd just sit on a log and read it to you, if that's all right. This is from the chapter in Half-Assed Human called Half-Assed Hope. When people ask me about hope, I hear an echo of my childhood self turning to a parent. Is it going to be okay? Maybe I should be embarrassed to admit this, but now in my 30s, I often turn to my partner in those moments where I'm struggling to articulate what I'm worried about and ask instead, is it going to be okay? He, depending on the situation, will give me one of the following. A, an affirmative, yes, of course. B, a truthful, no, I don't know, but I'll be here either way, followed by a hug. Or C, heavily sarcastic, no, it's all going to be terrible. Might as well quit while you're ahead and get out now. And I'm forced to laugh. At myself, at him, at the world. Whatever his reply, asking the question aloud and voicing it to someone else has a soothing effect. I've realised that behind so many of my anxieties, whether it's about myself or the world around me, is the secret belief that it's possible to know. That somewhere there is a huge switchboard of factors running the odds through the control centre, assessing my chances. That if only I could get in there, if only I could crack the code, I'd be able to see whether it's worth trying, if my half-arse makes half a difference, if I should give up before I've even begun. If such a place exists, I imagine there would be a long line of people outside, all waiting to be told straight. Am I going to be able to change? Am I capable of this? Will it work? Will my kids be okay? Will my life always be like this? Will things be different? Am I doing enough? Being enough? Saying enough? It's only by making peace with what we will never have that we can enjoy what we do. I don't have a magic portal through which to peek at the future, but what I do have is the past and the present. The past shows me that the world is capable of radical change. The present shows me that it is already happening and at a rapid pace. We shouldn't be kept from doing what we can simply because it isn't what we imagine to be enough. We shouldn't relegate ourselves from living a good life just because it's not a perfect one. At the end of the day, humans have a long history of gambling. We rub sticks together even though we've never seen a flame before. We pick and eat strange-looking plants that will fill us up or kill us. We wander into the next valley even though the one we grew up in is just fine. We still get married even though we're constantly reminded that those partners have a 50% chance of failing. We love to throw our chips in and cling to the chance that the dice will favour us. Even if you're not feeling factually optimistic, given the odds, you'd be carrying on a long human tradition of throwing your chips in anyway, jumping and trusting that the air will catch you. So being alive is kind of a gamble. Being a human and making any kind of progress is always a gamble. The people who made all the progress that's happened so far didn't know if it would work, didn't know if it would turn out okay, but they thought it might be worth the chance. I encourage you to pick a problem and keep coming up in your spare time with silly solutions to problems, even if you never do them. Just by talking about them with your friends, you're reminding each other that there are other ways that things could be, that you, a civilian with no qualifications and maybe no experience, can have really good ideas about how your communities could be more fun. Thank you so much for watching and hearing my really silly little ideas. I would love to hear your silly little ideas in the comments below. Let's just make a soup type of fun projects that we will have no time to complete, and maybe we'll get inspired by other people's ideas too, and maybe find a problem to pick. This video was made possible by the Gumption Club, and that is why we weren't interrupted by a sponsor trying to sell you bed linen or plastic things from Temu or anything else dystopian like that. So if you want to join the Gumption Club, I will leave the links below. We have a very wholesome Discord community too, and I also do a weekly podcast where I chat about whatever I feel like. If you would like to keep the passage that I read out to you for yourself and highlight it, it is in Half-Arsed Human, How to Live Better Without Burning Out, and the links to this book will be below. Thank you so much for watching. Frogsdog out.